What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Game Plan. It's NFL Week 10. My name's Kevin Allen, a.k.a. the Geek from DFS Army and Sharp. And I've got the DFS and sports betting goat himself, John Statsational Alessia, from Sharp app, from DFS Army, to help us break down the NFL Week 10 slate. This is the number 10 ranked DFS player in the world, from the greatest city in the world, Tampa.
Hey, I don't know about that, but it's a good time down here.
I try. Listen, I don't know where it is anymore. I think Tampa might be the greatest city right now.
It's definitely
not New York.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not New York. That's why I left.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It ain't here. It's somewhere else.
It is definitely somewhere else. I'm gonna be I'm going to Nashville for a couple of days. That's
Ooh.
A lot of people. A lot of people seem to like Nashville. I've not been. I've never been to Nashville. So.
I've been to Nashville, and of course, my first destination was Coyote Ugly. They have it as an actual bar there.
Well, do you want a quick Coyote Ugly story?
Yeah.
How Coyote Ugly came about?
Is it from that movie?
Well, it was before the movie. So did you ever go to Hogs and Heifers in Manhattan?
Yes.
All right. Well, my buddy helped them start that bar, Hogs and Heifers. And before it was ever popular and famous, we used to go all the time. It was literally what it was, which was a whole dive bar, hole in the wall in the meatpacking district in Manhattan. And so we used to go. I wasn't even of age. I was 19, 20. We used to hang out in there. And then Drew Barrymore comes in one night. And their thing was the bartenders used to hop up on the bar and they would dance and do the whole thing. And then Drew Barrymore came in and women would come in. And if they took their bra off, they got free drinks all night.
Yeah.
So Drew Barrymore came in and did. And then I think Harrison Ford popped in like the next week. And then little by little, it just started becoming like a big thing. So, we were very good friends with the owners, good friends with the bartenders and all. And then when the celebrities started coming, we stopped going because it would just get packed in there. But then Coyote Ugly was a takeoff of Hogs and Heifers. That's how they got the show. And then there was a bar, Coyote Ugly, and now of course the Coyote Uglies are all over the
now
country.
It's a chain.
Yeah, but it all started with Hogs and Heifers.
Get out of here! What don't you know? Yeah. You know what you don't know? Literally anything to do with pop culture except for this.
No, I don't know anything to do with pop culture like in the last 10 to 15 years because. When you get older, like no one wants I'm not into the pop culture anymore, but if it had to do with the 80s and the 90s, I'm pretty good. If I go to, listen, you want to take me to any trivia night at a bar, as long as they're doing older stuff, I just destroy everybody. But if it's anything new, I have no idea. I need a balance. I need someone who knows some new stuff.
That ain't me though. So I don't know who'd be your balance. I'd like to play a little trivia with you. I think we'd be a pretty formidable team because I have a lot of info stored up in here too that is pretty random.
There was Delta Song used to have the trivia game on the flights.
Okay.
I ran through one time. I was just destroying everybody on the plane because you could play everybody else on the plane. So I'm sitting in 13F or whatever, and they're like, and people are just like getting up and looking like because I win every time. And then finally someone beat me, and the whole plane just starts cheering.
Get out of here!
Because I lost. No, this is years ago, but now they've got it again. I'm trying to think if it's JetBlue or Delta, one of them. So I play trivia against the rest of the plane. I think it's Delta again now. So when I fly Delta or I'm forgetting, but yeah, you could play trivia against everybody, which is great. I love it. I love beating people on the plane.
I only play trivia against my kids' classmates because their teachers give them a Kahoot, which is basically like a bunch of questions and you have to answer it and answer it quick. And so I'll take the Kahoot. I just write a fake name because I'm always like, watch me crush your classmates to my 12-year-old. And I'll just do the Kahoot against all the classmates. And they're like, who's Billy? Because I don't want to put my name in there because they're like, who's Billy? Who's this Billy person? Coming in second. There's always one person though that's a little faster. I think that kid's cheating though. Fairness. I think that kid's cheating. That first place kid, there's no way they answered.
It's gotta be. They can't be beaten. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You can't.
But I crush most of those 12-year-olds though, for real. Not even
That's
kidding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
It feels good every time.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
It's never like I never feel bad about it. I'm always
you're teaching them a valuable lesson, because when they win, then they're gonna feel good about themselves.
You just nailed it. One of the things I did with my kids is whenever we play cards, for example, you know how like when you have a 6-year-old and you play cards with them and you beat them, they start to cry.
100%. Yes, I have nieces and nephews.
You have nieces and nephews. You know about this. I did not allow that to affect me. Cry all you want. I crushed you. Live with it. Deal with it. Come back stronger or wither away. Now, one kid was like, screw this. I'm not playing with you anymore. The other one got angry and kept playing and trying to figure out the strategy, eventually taking my own strategy, using it against me, and starting to win. And that made me so proud.
Listen, it's a good lesson. Obviously, the kids need to learn that lesson. I always teach that to my nieces and nephews. I'm like, you'll always feel better when you actually win properly, as opposed to me letting you win. Because they're like, I said, would you feel good if I just let you win? Of course, when they're really young, they say yes. I'd like to just win. And then, but when you ask them, wouldn't it feel better like when you actually win for real? Then of course they feel better about that. And I mean, that's hugely important. Please, the parents now today,
most people don't do that.
Just let their kid. No, they just let their kid win. Like, oh, what's the big deal? Let them win. I'm like, because no one's going to let them win in real life. I
get looked down upon. They're like, what? Why are you making your kid cry?
You play your kid.
I don't care.
You play your kid in basketball. You play them in like you continue to beat their ass until they are capable of beating you.
If you don't do that, they never become capable of.
No, if your 6-year-old's beating you in basketball, they're never going to get any better, right? If they're hitting home run, like sure, when you're training and practicing them with them, it's different. Yeah. But so,
translate it to cards, right? Translate it to cards.
Yes.
If you're playing rummy or a game of that sort against someone, and they just keep beating you, they're going to win because you're letting them win, right? So they don't learn techniques and strategies and approaches, and like. You're a master of games. You do the survivor pool. Like I watched your survivor video. There's nothing so in depth that I've ever seen, looking weeks ahead and weeks beyond. Like there are statistics going crazy, and everybody else is like, "Well, I just pick a team." And like you're trying to beat game, and that's what we're doing with betting, and that's what we're doing with DFS. It's all the same drive. I want to beat this game. I want to figure out the best angle to beat it. I want to get on that angle before somebody else does. That's everything. That's everything across all games.
Well, one of my big neuroses is like I need to be efficient in whatever it is. So like when I'm in Manhattan crossing the street, like I'll never cross at the corner. Like as soon as the traffic stops and I need to go in this direction, I just continue to diagonally cross streets and jaywalk, which is a New York thing. And because I know I'm cutting off 5 steps, I'm going to be a little bit I'm going to be a little quicker getting there. It's just, it's a thing. Now, when you look at these, when you're sports betting and you're playing in survivor pools or DFS, any of this stuff, yeah, any idiot can put a bet on a game and win. I mean, it doesn't take a genius, right? But I'm looking to just move the odds slightly in my favor. That's all it is. When you're a card counter, let's say, and you're playing blackjack, the average person has no idea. They think, oh, well, you're a card counter. That means you must be, you're cheating, which you're not, or you're winning constantly, which you're not. Just like the house is not winning constantly. The house has like, let's say a 1.5% edge. You're trying to get the 1.5% edge on your side. It's not that big, right? If you're going to make $1.50 on every $100 you bet, I'll take it, but you got to churn out big, large amounts.
When you're talking minimal EV, well, it's like my betting record right now, right? I have, in the Sharp app, we track our bets, right? And if you don't have the Sharp app, go grab it. Well, I'll put it on screen, but you track your bets. So it essentially replicates a sports book in that way. And if I take a look at my bets, which anybody who's on the Sharp app, by the way, is welcome to and can tell, no problem, because you can see those. All the pro subscribers can see my bets. So I'll show it to you. I'm 58, 38, and 3 with a 57% win rate and an 8% ROI. This is the last 30 days. I can do my whole thing, but doesn't matter for the last 30 days, right? So up 8 units.
And what a lot of it is recently now, right? NBA. So you're taking a lot of NBA stuff because we got the model.
That's where the volume is coming in. Yeah, the volume is just like, I'll do a few. I don't like to bet every NFL game, but I can bet 4 or 5 NBA games a night because we have a model that's really, really good. And it's been hitting at about, but people, is it foolproof? No. It hits at about, if we're hitting at a 58, 59% rate, so for me, the biggest thing with sports betting, and wow, we went off the rails with the opener today. The biggest thing for me with sports betting, and I've learned this, and I've learned a lot from you, John, is people who live and die with the one bet, you're definitely going to die at some point with the one bet. It just does not happen that you always win these bets. So you have to kind of just throw a lot of it. You got to get a little volume and have a system where over time you feel pretty confident that it's more winning than losing. And if you don't have that, you probably shouldn't be sports betting, because people I've seen who don't approach betting that way, who get really excited about one game, put their whole bankroll on it, and kind of think like, this is my big chance, they always eventually lose all their money. Always. Warren Buffett said it. Warren Buffett, I repeat this all the time. He talked about sports betting, and he said, if you go all in on your 50-50 bets all the time, you're probably going to win a few of them, but eventually I can say with a 100% certainty that you will lose all your money. You cannot keep hitting those. So just having a disciplined approach. But I'm just looking at my record. And by the way, it's really important to track your bets and keep a record of your stuff, because if you want to lower that bet size. If you're not profitable over time, you do not want to be investing any sort of real sums of money at this. But 8% ROI. Okay. I'll take it.
You'll take it all day. Absolutely.
Yeah. Up 8 units. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's get into this. Let's get into this breakdown. We're talking DFS and bets, NFL week 10. I'm going to go right into the main slate. So we're going to kind of skip over Atlanta, Carolina. There's a Sunday morning game, Seattle at Tampa. Not at Tampa, Seattle at fucking Germany. Tampa. Home game for Tampa. No game for you this week. No home team game, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that doesn't affect me in the least.
No, not a big go to the games guy.
I hate going to the games.
I can't tell you how long it's been since I've been to a game.
Football's the worst. Man, football was made. It was made for television. It is.
You also can't go in season. There's too much going on.
If you're too much else going on, I don't mind maybe when it's a primetime game, but even then, it's like you can't really see the game and enjoy it the way you can when you're home.
It's so weird, but very true.
Yeah, once I take my pants off in the stadium and it's like they look down on you when you do that.
They don't appreciate that.
Yeah, nobody says a word to me at home when I do that.
Yeah, no pants.
Yeah,
computer out.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're getting in fights at the stadium. You're like, all right.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Somebody throws a beer at you. You're like, you're not gonna fight now. I'm trying to make lineups.
Exactly.
All right. So let's get into the slate though, and let's start with the first game, and it's a weird one. Minnesota at Buffalo, and weird. I mean, look at this line movement, John. Just show the line movement chart there. So if you want to know if Josh Allen is playing this week, don't ask the news. You don't need Adam Schefter. Well, I don't need any of that. All I need to do is look at this line movement chart to know exactly what's going on in Buffalo, which is Buffalo went from a 9.5-point favorite to now a 3.5, and it's moving. It keeps moving. As a matter of fact, I don't mind them at 3.5, but so I'm going to assume that Case Keenum is going to be the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in this game. I'm going with it, John.
I'm actually taking Buffalo myself in this game, even with the
I don't. So I was going to say that too. I don't mind Buffalo, but John, I would suggest just wait another day, because you're probably going to get it -2.5. You might cross that 3-point line. So I would just wait another day. But because look at that chart, man, that is a chart that's just going and going.
Yeah, you make a good point on that. A lot of times people will ask me, is so-and-so playing? And you're right. Look at the line, especially if the line is available, which it is. Sometimes they'll take it off the board, and then then we don't know. When there's uncertainty that this line will be off the board, they would not be offering this right now if they were uncertain about Josh Allen, because they're going to get whacked when he comes in and plays. The line goes back up to 10, and everybody bet Buffalo.
This implies it's borderline a lock that Josh he does not play. Yes. Right? He's not playing. He is not this. Yeah,
they're
you're right.
Totally expecting that.
If Josh Allen plays, I would bet we got news, I would jump on this line and put my whole life savings on fucking Buffalo. Not really. I'm just kidding. I just said never to do that.
Not after the season in the NFL we've seen.
Yeah, and plus we've seen a lot of minus ridiculous. So yeah, not really, but you get the idea. So with that being said, I've got some interesting DFS angles from this game, John. First one being, I think Buffalo defense plays better than ever. I think they step it up, and stay the fuck away from anything to do with the Vikings in this game across the board. Even maybe Justin Jefferson because he's awesome. But beyond that, like, you don't want to mess with anything on the Vikings. What I do want to mess with, though, is, you ready for this? D Sizzles, a.k.a. Devin Singletary. I love it. Grab the overs, first of all, on Singletary right now, because look at the Bills and how they function as a team, right? With Josh Allen in there, they just throw the football like crazy. He's so good. It's always a bad decision to not have Josh Allen doing his thing because he's better than everybody else on the field. When Josh Allen isn't out there, I think we see the version of the Bills where they can kind of protect the quarterback by going run heavy. And I think we'll see a Devin Singletary resurgence in this game. Devin Singletary, interesting play, fantasy, DFS, and all props, taking the overs.
Yeah, I'll just say this on this game and with Allen out, it actually hurts the Minnesota side as well. Obviously, it's a blow to Buffalo's offense, but it does hurt the Minnesota offense as well because, one, we're talking about the best defense in football, and what we've said in weeks prior is just how impressive that is when they've have maybe the one or two best offense in football. Without Josh Allen, they're not the number one or two best offense in football. And what happens is generally the defense becomes better because, as you said, they're going to rely more on the run. They're not going to be up and down the field as much. So that's why it's so tough to be a top offense and a top defense, because you're giving the defense the ball so much more
really
frequently.
Quickly. Yeah.
And you're also up 2 touchdowns in a lot of these games in which you're going to play a little softer. Now put them in a situation where we're looking at a 3-point, 4-point spread. We already know how good this defense is. The defense, in my opinion, now probably becomes 2 or 3 points even better. So I would be, if you didn't like Minnesota before, you really shouldn't like them here.
I love it. I'm not going to say any more. That's it for DFS and plays. But guys, let us know in the comment section for each of these games as we go through it. Like, do you like anybody from this game? And more so on the betting side. John and I both still like Buffalo, although I'm not pulling the trigger yet because I believe that when the actual definitive news of Josh Allen being out is announced, that we might be able to squeeze another half point off of that line and hopefully even a full point. So I'm going to try to wait and see if that happens. And as far as DFS angles, it's Singletary or bust for me. All right, John, next up, right off the bat on the show, is one of the spots I really, really like for DFS purposes this week. We've got the Lions at the Bears. Oh, my. The Bears are looking incredible right now. Justin Fields doing everything we hoped that Lamar Jackson would do. Sets a record last week for the most rushing yards by a quarterback ever in an NFL football game. This kid is blossoming before our eyes. I feel like he was a flower all closed up and the petals are opening in front of our eyes to a beautiful flower, which is Justin Fields. What do you say? I love so many DFS angles in this game. The Lions are really bad against the run. I don't really like the running backs for the Bears because they're splitting work 50-50 between Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. But, Justin Fields, I'm going right back to it. We played him last week. He was my top play, and I'm going back to it this week, John. Flip side, Amin-Ra, I'm down with the sun god. I go right back to it. He has not had a good game in a while, but, this is the kind of situation where that could happen. I don't like too much else on the Detroit side, if I'm being honest. It's hard to trust Swift or Jamal Williams with sort of what they have going on. But what do you think here, John?
All right, just looking at it from a sports betting standpoint, we've got -3 on the line here at just about every book. 48.5 is the total. The AI model likes this at Chicago -0.5, so it thinks there's some value on the Detroit side. Now, here's the thing. When you look at models and stuff, and certainly my models, they're taking the whole season into account. This is one of those situations where the team has changed, certainly in the last 3 weeks. We talked about it last week, and now they just, and then Fields goes and has the best day by a quarterback last week. So they continue to improve. We talked about the prior couple of weeks was against really good defenses, right? They played Dallas. It's eluding me the other defense that they played, but they played a couple of strong defenses last week. They get a little bit of a weaker defense. And then here with Detroit, not very good defense.
They get the weakest of them all.
Yeah. And Detroit's kind of going the other way, right? Goff was the guy who, they were early in the season. He was a great pickup. Nobody drafted him. Detroit was putting up a bunch of points. That slowed down a bit as well. So this is an interesting game. Not one that I necessarily am targeting as far as a bet goes, but you can see where all the money's coming in. It's coming in on the Chicago side of this game, which they see the momentum.
Look at the app down there in the bottom left corner. Somebody got a bet on this game.
Well, we could see who that is.
Who's that handsome?
Looks like
who's that Geek, handsome devil.
The Geek is joining the public.
Wait, no. Hold up, John. You don't get to call me a square when I beat the closing line because that line has moved. So if you are following me on the app, you're already in. You beat the 3, right? And when they tie and all those people push and I get the win, you can say, you know what? He is a sharp. It
was a good move because I'm sure you were anticipating the fact that the public was just going to be all over Chicago in this game, which they are. And, that total moved drastically as well. Again, it's really everything is based on the
this is just how good they've been. Yeah.
It's based on the Chicago offense, which was just anemic. I mean, they've gone from maybe one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. Now, it's not like Fields is going to throw for 300 yards, but if he wants to run for 100 and throw for 100, we'll take that all day.
Which year was, and you will know this, what was Lamar Jackson's best year?
Lamar Jackson's best year.
I'm going to throw it at you.
Go ahead. It
was his second year.
Second year, yeah. His second year.
By far. Yeah. And it wasn't even close. You know who this guy reminds me of? He reminds me of Lamar Jackson year 2, because by year 3, they started figuring out, maybe we want to turn this kid into a pocket passer, and they start teaching him a little bit more of hanging out, right? Year 2 was the best year for Lamar because he didn't have this idea. No one was telling him, no, you've got to sit in the pocket and throw it. They were like, dude, you just run, right? We don't want to throw the ball too much. Just run. That we're experiencing year 2 Lamar with Fields right now. That might mean that Fields in 2 years from now is going to try to sit in the pocket and do this thing also. But for now, that was Lamar's best year, and this is the best possible scenario. I don't need him throwing for 300 yards. Listen, we've been on Fields for the last 3 weeks. The field got on Fields last week late. Fine. We've been on it. Bobby Wow, DFS Up North. You've been watching the shows, the breakdowns that we do. We've been on Fields for weeks. I was skeptical. But I listened to Bobby and Clinks and DFS Up North and those guys. I'm like, all right, I'll get on it. And it took me a couple of weeks to catch on. But what Fields is doing is really special right now. I love him for DFS. I love this game, and I bet it. So there we go. Put money where mouth. And I did it early because I usually do get on the square bets. In fairness, John, and those are better to hit earlier in the week because they continue to move. So you might as well get it early. Last week I had a couple of pushes that really a couple zingers, a couple pushes, 2 of them, brutal. But had I gotten on them earlier, they would have been wins.
Exactly. Just getting an extra half point from the close is going to improve you dramatically. You could wind up going 50-50 on your picks, and then if you add a half point in your direction on all your picks, you'd be profitable.
Absolutely.
So.
And again, if you guys want to follow my picks or John's picks, he literally tips every bet. All you have to do is download the Sharp app and grab the Pro subscription. It is super cheap right now. We set up Sharp app kind of similar to the way we set up DFS Army, which is really massively rewarding for the early subscribers. People are getting now, you can buy yearly for $149 for an entire year of bets. Most sites are charging that for a month. We're doing it for a whole year worth of bets. That's not going to continue, but people who lock in at that rate now, because we're building features and we're adding stuff constantly. So the way I did DFS Army is the same way I want to do Sharp, which is we grab a nice base of subscribers, use that revenue to continue to build features, and then the next group that come in, they pay a little bit more.
Yeah, getting in early is a
you want to get in early. Yeah, and it's an awesome Discord and all of that. So make sure you guys check that out. And of course, DFS Army as well. If you want to check that out, make sure to sign up at DFS Army as a VIP. Promo code Geek, 10% off. All right, let's talk about this third game on the slate. Another one which I very much like for DFS purposes across a lot of different areas. And I think we have the best quarterback of the slate in this one, John. That's the Jaguars taking on the Chiefs. 50.5 point total here. Chiefs are the by far highest team total on the slate. As 9.5 point favorites, I believe they have a 30.25 point team total in this one, which implies 4 touchdowns, maybe and a half, for this Chiefs team. If Mahomes throws for 3 of those, we're looking at a 30-plus point day. So keep it in mind. I really like this game for DFS purposes. On the Jaguars side, the Jaguars, I don't love Lawrence, but I actually don't even hate him in this spot. They don't have a massive team total, but the big story with the Jaguars is the emergence of Travis Etienne the last couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. We've been all over it. He's been a core play for me the last 3 weeks on my Geeks pick sheet. So every DFS Army subscriber pretty much all in on Etienne for the last few weeks, which doesn't make me feel like I'm joining a bandwagon now. Been on it since the start. We're driving the bandwagon, stopping for pickups along the way. People getting on. We're like, all right, dude, we've been on here for a while, but come on board. Little room in the back. Bandwagon. Got the hay seats in the back. You know what I'm talking about? It's like you sit on the hay bales. That's how you bandwagon. Flip side of this game, I kind of like Christian Kirk, by the way, as well. I want to mention him. I played him last week. He's looked, he's still the WR1, 25% target share. They're going to have to throw in this game to keep up. There's no doubt the Jaguars are going to have to be throwing. And on the Chiefs side, it's pretty much been Mahomes with Kelsey. If Kelsey is smashing, Mahomes is smashing. That's the thing, right? And then Juju Smith-Schuster and a couple of other wide receivers. Who knows? I kind of like Mecole Hardman of that group. He's had a couple good weeks. Martellus Valdes-Scantling has been sort of forgotten at this point. And then there's the mystery of Kadarius Toney. That's my DFS interpretation. I think Mahomes is the top quarterback play on the slate. It's crazy, but it's him and Fields. So weird, but that's the two. And then it's going to be extremely difficult. I did make a Mahomes-Kelsey lineup this week, but I'm going to tell you that is not easy to pull off. And I had to use Kelsey as a flex play in order to make it work. John, how do you feel about tight end in the flex?
Yeah, I'm fine with tight end in the flex position. I tend to avoid running back in the flex on DraftKings.
Okay.
But I'm cool with it. It's a lot of times you're doing it because you're getting a cheap option there in the flex. So that's really when you want to do it. But I don't disallow it as far as in my 150 lineup builds.
How often do you get a tight end in your flex?
It's not often. It's going to depend on the slate. And this slate, you probably won't get much here. Although, yeah, the reason you would do it in a situation like this is because you're going with a very expensive lineup. So if you have an expensive lineup, the tight end flex is a good way to get all those pieces that you want in there. And I'm absolutely fine with it because I just think the upside typically for pass catchers is always going to be better on DraftKings than the upside on the running backs, especially that's kind of the way it's gone this year, most weeks at least. And we've had a few weeks where it's just running backs just went crazy, but I think that's a good way to play it.
That's fair. What about betting angles on this one?
Yeah, the one thing is the public's all over Kansas City in this game, and so we're getting it's kind of what's backing up the handles, which we're seeing 85% of the money on Kansas City. Backing that up is the fact that we in the Sharp report we get that info from the offshore book, and they're saying the same thing, that they need Jacksonville right now at +8.5, I believe, or +9.5. The book needs the Jaguars, so that kind of backs up what we're seeing here. If you look at the handles,
oh yeah,
the money's all coming in on them. Yeah, money's coming in pretty heavy.
Interesting.
On the line hasn't moved that much since the open, which is interesting too, which would kind of lend me to believe, like when you kind of put the pieces together, like, well, all this money's coming in on Jackson or on Kansas City, and they're still not wanting to push this up to the 10, which is a key number. So I would lean a little bit towards Jacksonville on this game. I don't have anything on it myself, but I'm going to be looking at this one and just the way it's moving, the fact that the book needs Jacksonville and they have not moved the line really at all. that kind of gets me on the Jacksonville side a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you. It feels like the spot. I didn't bet it, but it does feel like based on what we're seeing there, that Jacksonville probably is the sharper side of that one. Jacksonville's not a bad team. It's hard though to keep up with the Chiefs. They just score really quickly, so I'd almost rather just not bet it. The Chiefs, even when they go down by 7, like they're not wiped out of winning by 10. That's the problem with sort of betting against the Chiefs. They score really quickly when they're doing it, so you got to be careful with those. And
I don't like. Yeah, I typically don't like betting against Mahomes as well. So I'll probably be pretty cautious on that play. But if you're looking at it, if we're just breaking it technically down, Jacksonville is the side to play in this game. So it's probably either a Jacksonville play or no play.
I agree. All right, let's move on. We've got another game really great, and I want to just talk about this game like in depth a little bit. But we got the Browns at Miami. Miami at home, 3.5-point favorites with a 48.5-point total. And here's what excites me about this game, John. Tua is like part of the nuts lineup almost every week. It's Tua. What he's doing right now, and of course Fields is in that category. It was amazing. They played each other last week, but Tua, they throw so frequently in Miami. Now, that could start to slim down. They finally have a running back I think they like in Jeff Wilson Jr. That can execute the offense the way they want to. So we might see a slight downtick in Tua's sort of passing prowess. But that being said, he's so easy to stack. He only throws to the two guys. Both Waddle and Hill have been spectacular, and Hill especially has now overtaken Cooper Kupp as the number 1 fantasy producing wide receiver on the season. That is impressive. Flip side of this game, Cleveland, we got Chubb. I never really play Chubb in DFS. It's not my guy, but there's also, Amari Cooper over there. So there's a couple of pieces of interest from the Chargers, but I definitely like Tua. Tua is the 3rd quarterback on my list. We've essentially hit all 3 of them. The 3 primaries for me this week are Mahomes, Fields, and Tua. And then I give a little nod, a little taste, a little look over to Trevor Lawrence and maybe Daniel Jones.
See that?
Yeah, as far as betting angles go, how do you see this one going down? I do have a lean here. I kind of like Miami at home. I think Miami's slightly better team than they're getting credit for, but I'm seeing in the background here, the AI model does not agree.
No, so 3.5 is the line, 48.5 on the total, and the model likes thinks 2 points of value in Cleveland. Now, these are an important 2 points because when you're crossing over that 3, if this was 5.5 to 3.5, not quite as significant as a 3.5 to 1.5. So I would put a little bit more weight on this one on the Cleveland side. You can see where the line has moved in Cleveland's favor, opened to 4.5, down to the 3.5, and what you're looking at is potentially some sharp money coming in on the Cleveland side of this game, which is why the game has moved down. So it's probably a little unusual, I would think, for a lot of people to think. I think looking at it initially, I would have assumed that Miami was going to take the majority of the bets here, but we're not seeing that as of yet. Now we're getting a little bit of a disparity over at the sportsbook. They need Cleveland at least at the book early in the week. So that's one specific book as opposed to all the books combined, which is what we see in the handles. So that may change on their side. But I actually like Cleveland in this game as well. I took this one earlier today at the 3.5. So
there it is. A little disagreement.
Yeah. So I'm on the Cleveland side of the game. And yeah, I like getting the 3.5 with this one. The numbers seem it does. I think on paper, I think the game's closer than people think. But I think looking at the games and how well Tua has played, I think that's why the bias has been on the Miami side. So I think we're getting a little bit more than we should. From a DFS standpoint, you've got a couple of defenses that haven't been all that great, against their opponent. Now, Cleveland, I sent you the
I got the sheet
ranking. Yeah, you can take a look at the sheet. Cleveland has been actually better than Miami. Miami's been brutal against opposing quarterbacks, which has been great for stacking their games because they're doing well.
I'm going to explain how the sheet works. Now, first of all, if you want access to the sheet and all the tools that we have at DFS Army, of course, you got to be signed up at DFS Army. This sheet is pinned in my channel in our premium Discord. So when you're in the DFS Army Discord and you're in the premium area where the subscribers get to hang out, this chart is something we keep in there. But let me explain how this works. And this is a John Statsational Alessia, custom chart. So these negative numbers on the points against imply how many points above mean expectation that position will produce or is expected to be projected to produce in that game. So for Miami, now listen, Miami's been in some big time games, but last week the quarterback Fields put up like a massive number of points, and that's helping skew this. But Miami is bleeding points to opposing quarterbacks to the tune of 5 or 6 points above expectation per game. You got to look at these. This is where you want to use this column to figure out which quarterbacks you want to target any given week. Like, it's funny. I would have thought that Houston, for example, was giving up more points to QBs, but no, it's the running backs that get it.
Yeah, because they run. And what you love to see is like green and red, right, combined. So you want that when you could get red on the left-hand side, the points against, match it up with a green on the right-hand side, points for. That's really the ultimate. So now you've got an above average, if we're talking quarterback, you got above average quarterback against a below average defense against the quarterback. That's really when it works well. It's as opposed to, sometimes you get in those situations where you're like, well, this defense is really bad, but they're playing a subpar offense. But the fact that for whatever reason, we always like to target the defense more than we target you know what I'm saying? Like we're always looking for who can we target.
Well, we're looking for matchups. I already know that. I know who's a good quarterback. Like it doesn't help me as much to know that Mahomes scores 9 points above average. Like we already know Mahomes is good. So
I think but what I'm saying, I think sometimes we overdo it where we go, okay, the matchup, this is the best matchup. Like Detroit last week. I mean, I was on Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to say that
no.
I was smarter than everybody.
I was smarter than hold on. Now I'm going to.
But listen, Rodgers was a fairly popular pick. It's Aaron Rodgers because they're going up against Detroit. Detroit gives up a ton, but you have to look at it sometimes where it's so much better when we get the above average offense against the below average defense, as opposed to one of them's going to win, right? So you had the below average offense. They've been terrible, Green Bay, against the below average defense. And oftentimes what happens is the defense comes out on top. And it's kind of like the preseason when you play when the second and third string teams get in. Well, it's subpar defenses against subpar offenses. And those totals are always, 35-36 because the offense has a tougher time of putting it together against a weaker defense when they're both weak.
So I want to point out that I did fade Aaron Rodgers and discussed it last week for exactly this reason. The minute we talked about this on the Tournament Tactics show on Friday, the minute Aaron Rodgers became the chalk, so it's funny. People are so beholden to the matchup that they're not realizing, wait, this guy though sucks. Like, wait a second here. And now he's high owned. Ownership more important than matchup for me, right? So and I'm sure listen, you're the fucking GOAT of DFS. I'm just hanging out. But for me, ownership is precedent. So the minute Aaron Rodgers last week became the chalkiest quarter, I was like, what are you, nuts? It was the same thing that happened whenever Derek Carr becomes the chalk. I'm like, what are they, crazy? Why would you this is like a sneaky play. You want to at low ownership, but the minute it's everybody doing it, you want to get the hell away from a play like that. It is not going to be good. So that's what happened with Aaron Rodgers last week. And I'm sure you didn't go too heavy on him, John.
No, I wasn't. I was, I used him. I think I was exactly at the market, 9%, 10%, something like that, which was way too much. It wound up hurting. I had a bad week, so it wasn't good. And I could have used that. I had over to Fields. I didn't have nearly enough.
Even with 25% naked Fields, the problem was with Fields. I had him last week, 25% of my lineups, and Tua in a lot of that. Like I had the right group, but you had to. It was a Fields +2 with a bring back that won the tournament. And who the hell was really thinking about.
Yeah, that
Cole
was it.
Kmet.
I was looking at any fields I was going to use was going to really be naked, and I didn't want to do it, and so that really started to bring down my
Yeah.
fields plays. So yeah, just not a good week for me.
I did a weird thing where I stacked Fields with Tua or Tyreek Hill because I felt like saving that money on the quarterback allowed me that little bit extra I needed to squeeze Tyreek into the lineup. It actually worked out very well. I had some Mooney, but I didn't win the tournament. Whatever. Who cares at that point, right? You don't win. No one cares.
Exactly.
No one cares. He came in 10th. Like, you didn't win. Who gives a shit? So anyway, back to it and back to the sheet. So we were talking, I don't even remember which game we were talking about.
Miami. Here, yeah. Well, I switched it over to Houston, but we were just finishing up the Miami-Cleveland.
Yeah, so Miami-Cleveland, just, it's a good game to target to all of that. And when we look at at the Statsational sheet here, again, when you're playing against Miami, quarterback, tight end, okay. Think about that. Tight end.
And, Cleveland gives up to the running back. And like you said, they might be using Wilson a little bit more here. I don't think it's going to be crazy. I think this quarterback, I think this head coach, I think he likes himself a little bit, and he likes throwing the ball. He likes to, he likes the weapon. It's pretty tough to get off of what they're doing offensively. They've been pretty solid offensively. So I think he's going to continue to show his creativity in the passing game. I really think he has a lot to do with the success. Obviously, Tyreek Hill too, but I watched Tua. He's very slow at delivering the ball. So if you're slow at delivering it, and maybe it's just my perception of it, I haven't actually timed it, but it looks very slow. And if you're going to be that slow, that means guys are running wide open. So there's two ways guys get open. Either you're scheming them open, or these guys are that good. And you've got two really good wide receivers who are getting themselves open, but I think they're scheming well also. So it's really putting Tua in an advantageous situation.
Listen, I don't know about slow or fast with the delivery. I don't have a judgment on that, but I know that Tua looks damn good out there, and he's throwing to his two guys. But you're right. So this game does look like it should favor the running game for Miami a little bit more than the passing game based on just Cleveland's defense. And that's a tough one because, again, Jeff Wilson and Mostert, and I don't love any of them. So that one's really tough. And the Carolina side, the prime thing we just with Cleveland, they're a run first team. So you have to be kind of ready for the run with Cleveland. All right, let's move on. Next up on the docket, we got the Texans at the Giants. Giants are 4.5-point home favorites in a meager 41-point total on that game. We talked about this just before. The aforementioned Houston defense is the worst in the NFL at stopping the run, and it is not even close. It's crazy. So we loaded up on Derrick Henry, I think it was last week, based on this 2 weeks ago.
It was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, last week they played Kansas City in the night game, Tennessee.
Oh, okay, and yeah, Kansas City really doesn't have running backs to. No, they didn't play.
No. Tennessee played Kansas City in the night game.
Yeah. I don't remember who.
Houston
was they on bye last week?
No, they played Philly on the Thursday. That's why you're forgetting it.
Okay, yeah, it was a Thursday game. That's right. And Miles Sanders did okay in that game, as a matter of fact. So Houston is a team you want to run on. And part of the reason that their numbers are skewed like this is because you don't really have to throw when you play against Houston. And I think the Giants will be very, very happy to oblige that, John. I think they're going to be like, okay, we'll do that. And so the primary play in this game is definitely going to be Saquon Barkley. There's no one else on the Giants that anybody really wants to mess with. I don't really have any reason to play like a Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Jones, but like if you wanted to go something different, I guess that's the way to go. I think though, if you're playing Daniel Jones, I'd rather stack him with Barkley. So yeah, that's the way that game comes out to me. Giants defense is not one to be trifled with this season. You're better off avoiding players against. Obviously, Damian Pierce looks good this season in general, but I'm probably not going there this week. Giants just produce pretty low outcomes. And to back that up on screen, wait, let me put the right, it's so hard working all these different screen shares. But if you look at the Giants here, they're just giving up fewer points per game to running backs and a lot fewer to wide receivers than average. So they're just not a defense I like to trifle with, John.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. It's weird because I've been seeing Dameon Pierce being like one of the highest owned guys this week. I
Early in
don't
the week,
see that. Yeah, it's early in the week. That might
this
change,
stuff
but
changes. I'm tired of getting
I don't
fooled
see
by
that.
the early week ownerships, because I think then we talk about stuff and then it all changes. So
it definitely changes when certain people start talking up certain guys or talking down other guys. You do see ownerships change quite a bit. So by the time Sunday rolls around, he'll probably not be the top play. But yeah, Barkley's in a spot here that you know it's ridiculously good.
If he was ever going to have a ceiling game, the Giants don't score a lot, right? But they don't score.
No, I mean that's where you're looking at 41 points on
Yeah.
a game like this. But this is a good running back. You know, even though it's low point, you don't like low totals at all with your teams, but decent favorite, 5-point favorite. You know, not a terrible spot for a running back against a team that really can't stop the run. So, and if the Giants could get out to a decent lead, it's gonna be a ton of Barkley. So you can certainly see him being the big play.
Any betting angles here? I mean,
I don't love this game. It's terrible. I hate when games are like that 4-5, that 4.5-5 line. It's always kind of tricky. And again, just to let you know, if you see this line fluctuate up to 6 or down, like you're in that no man's land. So lines will move a lot easier between like 4.5 and 6.5 than it will around the 3 and around the 7. So don't hold too much weight if this game goes up to 6. Doesn't necessarily, mean that there was a ton of sharp money coming in on the game. But we don't have a lot on it. I mean, the money, it's pretty split. This game was all the way up at 7. It has been slowly moving down towards Houston, which is interesting. Like I said, the money fairly split. The over is where all the money's coming in. And let's just see where the lines moved on the total. It has, it's moving with the money. So from 38 up to 40.5. The model likes it at 39.5. I mean, there's just not much here. The model likes it at -3.5, which is kind of favoring where the line has been moving. It's been moving in the Houston direction. I don't love the game. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's bettable. You just can't lay 4 or 5 points when you're talking about the Giants, because they just don't score frequently. I said it before. And Houston can figure out a way to get on the board. Giants offense can turn the ball over. That can lead to points. I'm not screwing with the bet on this one. I'm not shocked that they bet it up from 38 to 41 or 40.5, but I don't like the over. I think they bet it up to the right number. So, like, to me, I'm not like trying to target the over or follow that steam. I don't like it at all. I think you avoid this game outside of Saquon Barkley, or maybe, like I said, maybe just a look at Daniel Jones in DFS, but primarily it's a Barkley or a bust for me. And I will avoid chalk Dameon Pierce in this spot, period. I mean, that will not be the case, but I'll tell you, that's not going to be what's going to be on Sunday. He won't be chalk anymore. But if he is, I'll be very happy to fade that. John, I want to talk about our show sponsor here, Thrive Fantasy, real quick. And Thrive is a props over-under game. It's a very cool game, definitely a fun format. And the format I like the most here is their GPP-style tournaments. And right here, I'm going to show you something. They even do them for the Thursday night games. So they have them. They have these contests where you're going to go up against all these other people, Thursday night football, Monday, big slate, whatever it is. And you're just going to make a few of these decisions. And for the Thursday night game, and it's points, right? And whoever scores the most points wins. So they're over-unders, score the most points and you win. Here's what I like about it. The Thursday night game, we no longer really need to worry about kind of picking the props where we're hitting the 120, the bigger number. On a Thursday nighter, because there's so fewer props, what we just want to do is pick winners. Like, win all of these and you're good, right? If Terrence Marshall scores a touchdown and you get this one, great. But, if he doesn't, you need to be on that under, right? Because there's not that many props available, and you're going to have to pick 10 of them. So you can, you just want to pick winning props. We don't have to, on the Thursday slate, you don't have to really get as crazy with only picking the high numbers. On the main slates, we've talked about this the last few weeks. You really want to pick on, you want to try to find 10 essentially underdog plays that could hit to give yourself a real chance of winning that tournament. So make sure to check out Thrive Fantasy. And here's the best part, John. I know you love free money, right? Imagine imagine you went to the strip club and they're like, hey, put up $100. We'll give you $100 in singles free, right? So now you got 200 singles to hand out to the ladies. In Tampa, that's like being in New York and having $20,000 in your pocket, $1,000 bills.
Yeah,
the appreciation is a lot higher in Tampa than New York City.
I wish that were the case, but it has changed.
Oh man,
the damn New Yorkers keep coming down, man.
That's what they're ruining it. New Yorkers are ruining the best strip club city in the world. Oh,
stay home.
What's left?
I know.
What is there nothing sacred?
Nothing sacred anymore.
I don't even know what to say about this.
I'm sorry.
Next thing, they're going to be at the gun range.
Yeah, they are.
Complaining about noise and that you're not wearing a mask in the gun range.
Yeah, well, the good thing is all the New Yorkers who came down here were running away from that stuff. So
anyway, all right.
They're enjoying their freedom down here.
Oh, man, that went a step too far. Sorry about that one. All right. Yeah. Let's continue on with this breakdown. So next up, I got a little tear of laughter from I rarely get to that point, but I got there. All right. Saints at Pittsburgh is the next game we have got on the docket. Saints are 2.5-point road favorites in this one with a disgusting 40-point total. And I got to say a couple things about the Saints. Olave, massive price hike this week on DraftKings, making it difficult to pull that trigger. I still like him, though. I think he's the best player on the team. Besides this other guy, Kamara, who was forgotten on Monday by the Saints for some odd reason, probably cost me a showdown takedown. I just needed a couple more receptions out of Kamara. That was painful, actually. It sucked. But now they're going out to Pittsburgh, take on the Steelers. I want to kind of take a look at the chart here and see if we can get any defensive things. Steelers are just a mess right now. They're talking about, reducing the workload of Najee Harris in favor of, Mason or whoever the other backup running back is, which I don't think that's going to help you very much. Pittsburgh, sorry to say. Defensively, Pittsburgh is allowing 12 points above. This number is crazy, John. 12 points, fantasy points above average to the wide receiver, above mean expectations to the wide receiver position. That is crazy. That means that when you play Pittsburgh, your wide receivers go nuts. That is that is an Olave sort of big time plus right there. Flip side with the Saints, their defense is just good across the board, and I love Saints defense in this spot. What do you say, John?
Agree with you wholeheartedly. When you were talking earlier with some of the quarterbacks, I know you don't want to take Dalton, but he's got to be in the mix here this week, in my opinion.
Oh.
Yeah, you got to take him. He's had his moments. He's had good weeks. It's not like he hasn't had big weeks.
He's had his moments. I'm not going to disagree.
He's had some awful weeks, but that's all, that's perfect for GPP. I'm like, here's a guy, he's got the 30-point potential.
It does not feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good.
Because Dalton already had his one good game out of every 17 or 20.
Well, he had that good game too. That the Thursday night game against Arizona. I mean, he scored a ton of points, and we'll see. But I think he's got to be in your mix.
No, man. All right.
I know he looked terrible last week, and then you've got Kamara's going to be a very popular play.
Is he?
Yeah,
I mean, again, this is Kamara had a tough week, but one thing I'll note is, it's not like the Saints have another running back. Ingram was out. They just brought some Nair Duell in there to back up Kamara last week, but I don't know. They got weirdly they just started that didn't use Kamara last week. I don't know what happened. I watched I'm like, why are they not giving it to Kamara? And every time Kamara touched the ball, he looked amazing. So you kind of like Kamara here.
Yeah, I think, the numbers don't necessarily say that, because the New Orleans, they've actually been bad at the running back position, but we know what Kamara could do. If you look at the numbers on there, they're -2 against average, against their opponent's average against the running back. So they have not performed well, but Pittsburgh, not all that great. Actually, Pittsburgh's been pretty good against the running back, and primarily the Pittsburgh numbers that you're seeing.
That's all because
obviously
the wide receivers have been so good.
They've been so good. Yeah, throwing the ball against Pittsburgh's been, you would expect kind of something like the Houston numbers where you just kind of run on them. That's what you would expect to see. Usually the bad teams are those teams that they give up a ton of rushing yardage. So interesting here. I just think you can't totally get rid of Dalton in this game, and I think Kamara is going to be a popular pick. As far as the betting, you could get this at 2.5. You bring up the app. I mean, you could still get this at -2.5 with New Orleans or +3, and that's huge. That's one of the big benefits of having the app and then having multiple sports books is figuring out the best line.
I'm trying to see what that sports book is. That's
Sugar Hill.
Sugar Hill, yeah. So that one's not
for everybody, everywhere. Unfortunately. Yeah.
And it is really important though. Part of the deal with the Sharp app.
But you're getting 2.5 at BetMGM.
Oh, there you go.
A lot of the lines. So you're getting, it's actually 3 is the number over at PointsBet. So that's the only out that's given.
Oh, wow. Okay.
3.
But
so that's
also
the unusual number.
If you wanted the other side. So though it is a reminder that it's really, really important. If you want to be a successful sports bettor, you have to shop every single line. You got to shave those half points off your bets when you can. And you have to have more than one out. If you're not doing that, you saw my bets before, 5 or 6%, 7% margin. You're going to eat and lose that 7% margin if you don't do those things. So it's really important. And if you don't have it, grab the Sharp app now, download it's free, and you can compare odds across all those books. And of course, my favorite part, John, we haven't really even showed it, is like for DFS purposes, click on player props. Let's see what the numbers show for Kamara.
We didn't get them up yet.
Great. So
too early. It's too early. It's Wednesday. Yeah. Usually Friday. We don't get them till Friday.
Yeah, that's not that. That's right. That's the Thursday. So, but one of the coolest things about the app is though, when I'm doing my DFS research, player props are really critical to understanding like touchdown probabilities and all those things. And what I love about the Sharp app, because what I used to do before is I would have to go and find a sports book and then go and look for each game and then or find each individual prop. It just took forever to quite honestly to find it. And now I just go to a game center, I click on props, and I have all the props for that game. That is free. That's part of what's free on the Sharp app. So you could compare the props for every single player in every single game, NBA, and all of it. And it really helps with your DFS decisions and your DFS approach. Of course, we've got our own projections, but looking at what the sports books are all doing, and not just one, but every sports book and every prop for every player, you really get a sense of kind of what to expect and what are good DFS plays and tournament plays. And listen, I use it for the showdowns. I use it for everything. So really important to have the app in order to have those things. Now, do you have a play on this one, John?
No play for me on this. I don't have too many games that I like this week. I would lean towards the Saints in this game if I had to give you a lean. The model likes it at 4.5. So the model, and again, that's key. So now the model's looking at a point differential over the 3. So I would definitely lean towards the Saints in this game. You see the money here, potentially some
sharper money on the Saints
side. Potentially sharp money here. So it's kind of lining up Saints. And then look at the under. I mean, the under is getting hammered. So, obviously we don't like unders, especially when they're 41.5 for DFS purposes. But yeah, so that of course is going to keep you away from Dalton. But to me in GPPs, if you're maxing, sprinkle a few in there. Don't X them out, but not going to be one of the stronger plays. But the under, we could still do well on an under with a Kamara potentially in this game. If Kamara just gets the workload here, Pittsburgh just doesn't move the ball.
He would have to get all of it. But it also I mean, my goodness, like Olave, the +12 fantasy points above expectation. Like there is some definite interest here in Olave as well. But again, the total is so gross on this one. It could be a trap. It could be a bit of a trap game.
Totally.
A couple games left, John. Denver at Tennessee. Denver +2.5 on the road at Tennessee. This is a gross one. This might be the lowest total of the season so far. And we've had like New England play like Carolina, but this one is lower, I think, even than that, or it's right there at the lowest total of the season. 37.5 is the total on this one. It is a gross. I like the over. Because it's 37, so low.
Yeah,
it's so low. And
but it's like people are looking at last week. I mean, Tennessee held Kansas City down. I mean, Denver is holding everybody down.
Denver
and can't score.
Great defenses. These two teams are good at defense. And it's interesting because on the Titans side, they have really no offense to speak of. It's just Derrick Henry or bust for them, or play good defense and run Derrick, which is fine. That's a formula that works in the NFL. I think what happens in this game, Tennessee Titans the Titans are very good. Well, let's bring up the sheet here. It's important. So there are some significant defensive sort of statistics here that we could take a look at. But
look how dominant Denver is.
Yeah, Denver just what does well against Denver? Almost nothing. Although they're less dominant against running backs than they are against all the other position groups, for whatever that's worth, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it is actually worth a lot because that's going to be the focus anyway for Tennessee. Yeah. So, but yeah, how crazy I want to get with the with Henry in this one, I don't know, because that's going to be the only, because they can't really throw the ball, so they're definitely going to be putting all their focus here on the on that running game.
Look at Tennessee now. So the Titans bleed points to quarterbacks and wide receivers at the expense of the running back position. Right there, down here, I had to move our heads out of the way in order to see it. Right. So Titans bleeding points to quarterbacks, really bleeding points to tight ends. So what do you do in that scenario for DFS purposes? And I'll tell you, against the Titans, you could play wide receivers. Now, this game is so ass, though, that it's going to be hard to want to play any of these guys. But I would say that Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are probably the most, quote unquote, reasonably priced wide receivers on this entire slate, at least on DraftKings. They're both in the mid 5Ks, and you can't get much good in that zone. So I actually don't mind, as gross as it seems, one of those two guys as standalone play. And either one, it doesn't make a difference. I don't really know how to pick a better one. I think might be Jeudy. Not sure.
This falls into the category that we were talking about before, though. It's red against red. So you're taking Denver. The Denver is just red offensively across the board against Tennessee, which is red defensively on everything except for the running back position.
And so offensively, horrible. Look at these. So this is the Tennessee offense. Oh my gosh, right? We don't want any of that.
The Tennessee offense I didn't even realize they were 19 and a half points almost.
Because they don't have any wide receivers.
They have no wide receivers. And then, of course, the quarterback and the tight end, it's just all Derrick Henry. So he's 7.5 points better. But you're facing, so that's really the weakest point where Tennessee's going to exploit. And they want to do that anyway. The question becomes, does Denver try and exploit the weakness of Tennessee, which is their run defense? And it would probably be smart for them to try that. If they do with any sort of success, then that 37.5 going over becomes tricky, because if both teams are going to try to run the ball, that's going to eat clock and not going to be a whole lot of DFS goodness. So,
and right here, in case you needed to know that Denver stinks, they're putting up 4 points below average, 6 points below average at running back, 4 points below at wide receiver. They're just terrible. They're not producing quality DFS outcomes at all this year.
And the teams that they play aren't either, because the defense has just been so good. So it's just been terrible. It's just not a game that you want to get too excited about. DFS wise. I wouldn't touch the wide receivers in this game. I think it's Henry, and possibly if you want to take a shot here. But I don't, the problem with Denver is you don't have you don't have one running back. So
no, you can't. You can't play them.
You can't take any of the Denver running backs. So that's the problem.
It's up to 3. It's a disaster. Only Derrick Henry or one of the two Denver wide receivers are even playable. And I don't really see wanting to get crazy with Derrick Henry in this type of a situation. So it's mostly a pass. All right. And I ain't bet. If I had to bet this, I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't love the bets on it. The model actually likes it at 36, which is even lower than where the total is.
Yeah, the under.
It likes Tennessee -1, so a little bit of value on the Denver side of the game. The money is just totally split 50-50, and but the money's coming in on the under here. So that's, but we also saw, where did it moved? I believe it opened a little bit higher. So we'll see. Yeah, so this opened at 40. So the majority of that money came in at the about 40, and then 38.5 caught a bunch of money, and we're now down to that 37 and a half. So, when you see the handles, you also have to understand that money's not coming in where it is now. That money came in already, and that's why the line moved down. So if you missed out, you probably lost a ton of value here on the under.
Not everybody knows, by the way, John, and it's great that you're showing it on screen. I find it super helpful. Not everybody knows when they're looking at betting handle data that you should also be looking at the line movement chart to fully comprehend what this data is
I'll give you the quick tip, right? If you want to put a little, the whole 5 minutes it's going to take you to do this every day, just, get in there on Monday morning and just screenshot them and be like, all right, what's the handles look like? Where's the line? And then just look at it at, then tomorrow and the next day, so on. And you'll get a good idea.
Why can't I just look at this chart without having to make all these screenshots?
Well, you can't, because you're going to see. I just want you to screenshot the handles, right? So if that handle was at 50-50 on the total on Monday and the line was at 40, and then come Wednesday, it's now 90% on the under and the line's 37.5. Now you know where it's gone. And that money came in when it was at 40, as opposed to if right now we were staring at it 50-50 and it went all the way down to 37.5. That would be a trigger to me where, the money's not coming in on the under, yet the line's moving towards the under. That would be a very strong indicator on the under.
You know what it indicated for me? What I just learned. I just learned why you don't know anything about pop culture, because you're fucking screenshotting betting handles every day of the week and storing them and sorting them into folders. Monday, Tuesday, that's a lot of work. I'd just rather tail your bets at this point than have to do all that work.
Listen, people don't understand like the amount of times, like you talked about how relatively cheap the app is, which it is. It's like if you had to put, what you're doing is you're buying time and you're buying the tools and everything. If you had to do all of this on your own, forget about me or any of the other guys in there. Just handicapping it on your own and tracking all this information down is worth a whole lot more in your time. The opportunity cost of things you could be doing with your time. Trust me, I sit in front of the computer 8 to 10 hours a day doing this stuff. And even sometimes I wonder, I'm like, I could go outside and get a little fresh air, but
nah, don't do that. But it reminds me that I do get a chuckle, because I always hear this, like for DFS Army, for example, people are like, well, I'll make my own projection. I don't need your projection. I'll make my own. Okay. Yeah, you could do that for every sport. You want to do them for fucking tennis and MMA, and you want to just make your own. That's great. I love it. Please do that. So I don't want to pay you $1 a day for a subscription. Why should I waste my money? Well, I go, that's cool. I love that you do that. But, the flip side is not everybody has, how much is my time worth? Is it worth, like, if I have a subscription that I paid $2 a day for, or $1 a day for the Sharp app, or less than $1 a day, how much is my time worth? How much is the time I spent compiling projections and ownerships and all this and finding it everywhere? And what is that worth? Is it because I say like my hourly is a lot more than $1 or $2. And if it takes you 3 hours to do this, well, I think that's a valuable time to spend because you're researching and you're learning. Not everybody has hours and hours of their day to compile research and compile projections and all. It's hard enough then taking all of that and creating bets or creating DFS lineups or whatnot. But if you have to do the baseline work underneath it all, I mean, the amount of work that would have to go into some of this stuff is pretty incredible. All right. Denver Titans, just stay the fuck away from that one. It's a gross game. We got the Colts at the Raiders.
Speaking of gross,
the Colts, huh? 42.5 point total. Raiders now 6 point. John, 6 point favored rate. That to me, like, yeah. Do I like the Colts? No. Do the Colts have anything going on that's good? I'm going to say no. Right? Ellinger doesn't look good. Offensive line, terrible. New coach, inspiring. Frank Reich. Don't know what to tell you about Frank Reich. I thought he was a good coach. Biggie Smalls was always a big fan of Frank Reich.
Frank Reich is a good coach. That's a weird situation going on there. And then Jeff Saturday, I mean, you're going to bring in a guy with no experience, but they can't get on like he's beloved. So that's probably the reason.
I think it's fine to bring in Saturday because they kept the coaching staff in play. It's not
he's in there just because of who he is, and the fan base is not going to get on it. It's going to help the fan base.
That's just fun for Jim Irsay to do in the interim. They've given up on the season. They know, listen, it ain't happening. The Colts might get lucky though and be so bad that they get a top draft pick this year, which would really kind of be what the Colts usually do.
Yeah, they could get another top quarterback.
I mean,
would be,
if they get one of Stroud or
yeah,
Young,
that's what they're looking. Yeah, that's what they're looking at. They got a 30-year-old kid going to be calling plays. Did you see that?
It's silly. So with that being said, I don't really ever trust Vegas as a 6-point.
How many big leads have they given up? So
they're terrible also. But I do think this is a spot where Josh Jacobs could wake up and come back to life and have a nice game. That's the play. To me, Raiders defense is probably playable. And that's it. I got nothing. I'm not interested in Pittman here or, Deion Jackson. None of that.
The scary part is, the Indy defense has been pretty decent. So it's been tough.
Yeah.
In their games, the offense, it's just another one of those teams where the offense has just been terrible. Decent, not a dominant defense, but a decent defense. So it just makes their games really difficult to get a lot of DFS points out of. So when we look at it just from a betting standpoint, 42.5 is the total. That's right around league. I think we're averaging 43.5.
I'm liking the under
right now.
I don't know how you feel about it. I'm kind of interested in the under a little bit.
So the under, I mean, the model likes it at 41.5, which just a little bit of value to the under. And then when you look at where the money's coming in, it's all coming in on the under. So you're not the only one liking the under. And then I think I don't particularly love the under in this game. So I feel like the Vegas side, I think they're going to be able to put a few points up against Vegas. I think if they get this, if they can get in the high teens here, which I think the Colts can do, then this game goes over. And so that's where I see it.
It won't take much.
I think the Colts could get to 17, and then that'll get this to the over. So I'm a little hesitant to bet the under. So my lean would be the over in this game.
How about 97% of the bets are to the under? That makes
97% of the money, 80% exactly, 80% of the tickets, 97% of the money.
That definitely is talking me off of it a little bit. Let's see the line movement on that total.
Yeah, so it shot up to 46 and then back down. So I mean, it's really back to where it opened. I don't know what that move was to 46. I bet
it was when they fired the coach and kind of they thought maybe they bring back Matt Ryan as the starter.
That's a possibility.
And then they were like,
it was a brief blip.
Yeah. I think if Matt Ryan was the starter in this game,
it's definitely the total goes up.
Yeah, I would actually favor the Colts, but I think the coach, the owner probably said, "Don't put Ryan in there. We're trying to lose games at this point."
Are
they allowed to say that?
No, they can't. They can't try and lose games, but they could tell the head coach, "Listen, this is the quarterback I want you to start."
But they can't say why.
Well, they wouldn't. He's got a great relationship with Saturday, so I'm sure you could tell him whatever he wants. But you don't. Do you really want to tell your coach? Because then when you fire the head coach and then he comes out and says, "Hey, they were telling me to lose." That's not a real good look.
So what you're saying is when you're an NFL team owner, you always have to be thinking not if, but when I fire this guy.
Who doesn't get fired?
They all get fired. It's just like it's as locked in. Well, sometimes they retire, but I mean, for the most part, they get fired. Right?
Your last job in the NFL typically was a firing.
Yeah. So essentially, NFL owners have to be thinking, when I fire this guy, what are the things that I've said that will come back to bite me? So you can't say
go lose and then hire a new coach and say, and then you go, well, he told me to lose.
Yeah. All right.
We'll wind up with a crazy, the Flores situation in Miami.
That's the Flores situation. That's that's pretty fun. I'm sorry we took that, but it's kind of funny mention because I never thought of it. But you're right. Every GM or owner is kind of like, when I fire this guy, I don't want it coming back up.
That's why, teams don't actually dump, especially in the NFL. The NBA, they do. But what they do is just don't put the best players on the field from a front office. The front office is the one that wants to. The head coach never, ever wants to lose games because
it doesn't benefit him. He's gone.
Right. It never helps him. So they never tell them to lose games. But if they give you a crappy roster to work with, no quarterback, it's going to be real easy to start losing games all on your own. And then when the owner comes in and says, "Listen, it's not working with Ryan. Let's see what we got with it." You have no choice. You got to play the backup quarterback here. You got to play the young kid. And that may play right into what the organization wants, which is
they
to draft
want,
a new quarterback. But they're not
they,
telling them to dump. It's under the guise of, hey, play this kid. Let's see what we got, because we're not doing well here with Ryan anyway. We need to look to the future. And then in the meantime, you fire the head coach because
let's go behind the doors, though, of the front office for one of these teams. If I'm the co-GM, like if I'm the GM's right-hand man, right? I'm the analytics guy that hangs out with the GM and whispers shit in his ear. I'm Mangini to the Tannehill, like whispering shit in the front office. Do the GM and his co-G and his right-hand man discuss, listen, we need to lose these games?
Absolutely.
Like, are they having that frank conversation amongst each other?
Well, possibly. It's always going to depend.
I mean?
The GM's not secure in their job either. They're going to get fired as well. So it depends on the GM, how secure he is with the owner.
Yeah.
And you could say it without saying it. The owner's going to go down to the GM and say, listen, this season's that you're safe here for the next 2-3 years. That's the discussion that has to happen. The team doesn't look that good. The way you say it is, let's take a look at some of these younger players and see what we got, because we got to prepare for next year. So you're not dumping, but you're dumping.
They can't speak freely about it. I want to get in, like, wouldn't it be fun to really ask these questions? Like, I would want to ask these questions of an actual GM right now and just put them on the spot, and they'd be like, well, and stuttering, unless they were like a former GM, they'd give you frank answers.
Yeah. Someone who has someone who's not coming back in the league.
Get Matt Millen. He's never getting another job.
No, he's not.
Yeah. We'll get him in here. We'll have a conversation with him.
And
all right.
He will tell you.
This is it's a super interesting topic for me. I'm sorry if the audience, I don't know if they like it, but it was fascinating. I like these sort of thoughts, like what goes on behind the scenes. All right. Dallas at Green Bay. John, it's another good defensive game. Very slow. I like the under. I like Dallas. I think I have a bet in. Scroll down, see if there's any pro picks. I feel like, yeah. There it is. There it is. So you're probably going to disagree with me as usual, and that's fine. I'll accept it. But Dallas on the road taking on the Packers. I just think the Packers aren't good, and it's that simple. You don't want to have players going up against Dallas defense. Generally, that's like a bad DFS approach where you use anybody, unless it's Fields, apparently, going up against Dallas. But I don't hate Lazard in this one because he's the only game in town at wide receiver. With Romeo Doubs out, it's going to be the Lazard show. So I might break a rule. My rule is don't use offensive players against Dallas. I might break that rule this week, but I see a very low-scoring affair here. Lots of running. I don't think Zeke is going to play. I think it's going to be Pollard and that whoever that backup running back was from last week on the Dallas side. And on the Packers side, it's Lazard or bust for me.
That sounds about right. Let me tell you what's going on from a sports betting standpoint, which is really interesting here, because you're on the square side of this game. But you're also on the sharp side. So the sharps actually bet Dallas and the squares bet Dallas, which means what we're being told from the book is they need Green Bay. Now, when you look at it here, not seeing as drastic.
Yeah, the handle is not implying that.
It's not on the handles, but the information that we're getting from the sports book, that one particular sports book, is they have already taken sharp Dallas money at 5, and they have a liability in which they need Green Bay to win this game at +5, and they're also getting their square bettors, which you're seeing 74% of the bets implies that most of the square money is coming in on Dallas. But this 44%, I'm going to keep an eye on this, and we'll see. The sharp report gets updated daily, and we'll see if any of the sharps come in, because what will happen sometimes is sharp money will come in on one side. As the week goes on, different groups of sharps come in against those sharps, and then we wind up having, they kind of offset each other. So we'll be left with maybe just the squares on Dallas. We'll see. But it kind of looks from this that there's already been some sharp money come in on the Green Bay side, which would make sense to me. So this one's a little tricky to necessarily handicap. Let's just look at where the line has moved. So you had that blip in this game as well, but it opened at 2.5 all the way to 5. Nobody wants to bet Green Bay. So that's really.
It's just the Packers continue to look bad week after week
they've
after
just
week.
looked. And now Dallas, that defense has been solid against an offense that just can't get it going. So, yeah, from a betting standpoint, I don't love the game, but I may change my mind here. I'm going to see. I might get on Green Bay as the week goes on. I'm gonna monitor that situation.
Yeah. I love it. And guys who are watching, guys and gals who are watching, let us know which are some of your favorite games to target this week. Who are some of the quarterback wide receiver combos that you're into? And do you have any bets that you love? Hit us up. Yeah. So what I want to hear about is your anchor bet. What's an anchor bet or a trademark pizza bet? You know about the pizza bet, right? Right, John?
We're very familiar. The small bet, like if you like a team to not just cover, but maybe cover by 10 more points or you like a dog here today. You're like a 3-point dog to win win by 10 or
win
more.
outright or win by 3 or more.
Take them on an alternative line. You take it for a small amount. Anthony calls it Gargano calls it the pizza bet because he's risking $10 or $20. The price of a pizza for a big payday, you might be getting something like a plus 500, plus 1,000, something like that on one of these, which is a nice little payday.
For my
small
issue,
amount of money.
I confused early on what the pizza bet was because I was betting pizza money, like $20, but when you win it, I thought that I was supposed to then spend the money
go buy pizza
on pizzas.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I started getting fat after just follow Anthony's bets. His pizza bets were hammering, we're crushing. And I'm like, dude, I've been eating so much pizza.
Hold on, is pizza plural? Pizza is plural.
Pizza is, there's no pizzas.
Yeah, I believe it's plural already, right?
Yeah. Like deer.
Yes.
There's no plural form.
Yeah, there's right, exactly.
Yeah. Like mouse, pizza, pice.
Well,
pizza is multiple pizzas.
Mice is
actually
multiple.
No, pizzas. No, order 3 pizzas. It's not plural.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I got 3. Yeah. I got 3 pies.
I transported myself into the pizza into the pizzeria, and I thought, hey, I got an order for 3 pizzas. And then I heard it.
But you would never say 3 pizzas. You'd always say like,
you don't say.
I got 3. Yeah, I got 3
pies. In Brooklyn, they say pies because
I got 3 pies.
They don't say pies in Tampa. They say pizzas.
Yeah, well, they're idiots. What do you want me to tell you?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a Brooklyn. In Brooklyn they say a pie. Outside of Brooklyn, they say it's a. Listen, there's terminology change around the country.
Exactly. All right, let's get the last game.
Wait. I got one more question.
Get this last game.
Is there any good pizza in Tampa? Like, actually, you don't eat pizza.
I can't eat pizza anymore. Yeah, I'm gluten free, but I've been making a crazy good. I've been making my own dough, and
you make your
bread,
own gluten free. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And then I've been making pizza in the cast iron skillet with that dough. It's more of a batter, and I turned it into. It's phenomenal. I made a great sauce the other day too. It's a bell pepper based pasta sauce. Fantastic. Hit me up in Discord. I'll get you the recipe.
A recipe for pizza, gluten-free pizza.
Yes,
and a fresh gravy for the pizza, as you like to call it.
Well, gravy is different. That's different. This is a sauce.
All right, we'll talk. We'll save that for another one. All right, last game on the main slate here, and again, not so sexy for DFS. We hit the sexy ones early. This one's kind of gross. And it's also gross for betting. I wanted to love it, and then I just couldn't. Arizona at the Rams. Rams 3-point home favorites, 43.5 point total. And John, I'm going to bring up our sheet for this one, just like to get an idea of why this is kind of a weird one for betting purposes. The Rams are very good defensively. 5 fewer points per game on average to the QB position. 4 fewer games on average to tight ends. 3 blah blah. Basically, the only position group that scores, I don't even know. Is this Rams? Is this implying play defense against the Rams or Rams defense against?
Yeah, that's
defense against the Rams.
Defense is against the Rams because their offense is so pitiful. But they're one of the best defense. It's good to play defenses against the Rams as well.
Play defense against them, but as far as offenses against them, you do not want to play anyone. So this essentially eliminates the entirety of the Cardinals from consideration for me. And then it's not much better when you look at the defense of the Cardinals, which are also very, very good.
No, they're not good.
No, actually. All right. So against the tight end position. So Cardinals, we want to target tight ends specifically. But that's about it. Wide receivers don't do well. Running back does okay, but the Rams don't have running back, so that doesn't matter. And QB does all right, but again, the Rams don't have a QB, so it's irrelevant. What the Rams do have, and by don't have one, I mean, if you look at the Rams, and let me just make sure I can show this, their QB scores is horrible, and their running back is horrible. That's what I mean. Like, you can't play. These players just generally just are terrible. Like, they score well below average at running back and QB, so you don't want to screw with it. The only position where they're really good has been wide receiver, and wide receiver is not the greatest against Arizona, so they negate each other, and the last spot is really tight end. So the only play on this entire game, there's two DFS purposes. One is Tyler Higbee, and my goodness, I don't know what it is about the Rams, but why it keeps happening. Last week, Noah Fant almost went for 100 yards. That dude hasn't gotten 100 yards in a season, and he did it almost last week. I think it was at 90 plus. Unheard of. It's because of this damn terrible.
Again, you talk about against Arizona?
Yes.
It was Disley.
No, it was Fant. It was Fant.
Disley had a good day too. Yeah,
both of them. That's what I'm saying. Like, the tight ends went bananas.
That's been the thing with Arizona. We've been talking about it every week. Is you got to target tight ends against Arizona.
That's Higbee.
Yeah,
Higbee's priced down finally. He's not very good normally.
Yeah, terrible week last week, but look for a little bounce back this week. I agree with you. From the betting standpoint, the line's at 1.5 or 1, 42.5, another low total. Kind of coincides with what we're looking at from these DFS projections. The AI model likes it at 1, which is pretty much where the market's at, and 41 on the total. So a little bit of value towards the under. You can kind of see where the line has moved. It got all the way up to 4. Now, as you were talking, I just got a notification that Kyler Murray sat out of practice with a hamstring today. Don't know if that's gonna be a thing, but we'll keep an eye on that as we go. But he's got some sort of tightness in his hammy. Probably gonna play. I haven't seen anything change as far as lines or anything like that. So I would anticipate him in there, but keep an eye on that. And then, for the handles, I mean, I don't believe we're getting any info. Let me see. I mean, I do have a play on this game.
Go back up to the line movement chart here for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we did just move a point. Do you think that point?
This was before that news. Okay. So that news just came out that or at least I just got notification on it.
John, you patented something a few years ago with Kyler Murray and with Lamar Jackson that I want to mention. I'm going to give you credit for it. This is a patented John Statsational Alessia thing, which is when you have a running quarterback and they have a hammy or they've got an ankle or they got something going on, they turn into dog shit. You do not want to play them in DFS, John. You taught me that.
Those guys are the big part of their game. Even if they're not getting the points running, they get their passing yardage with their legs as well. That's part of what's going on with Russell Wilson, is that he just doesn't run anymore. Even though you weren't drafting Russell Wilson in fantasy 4 or 5 years ago because of his running ability, it was nice. He'd give you a little 20, 30 yard game, but his ability to move in the pocket and create for himself, he was able to withstand really bad offensive lines that he had in Seattle those last few years because of that. What happens with these quarterbacks, they get dinged up, even if it's a shoulder, and they don't want them to run. It totally takes away their entire game. So I keep an eye on it. They're saying it's day to day. I'm just reading a little bit more of it now, and they're saying it's not catastrophic. So he'll play, but whenever he is dinged up a little bit, you want to fade. And against the Rams, I'd be looking at a fade as well. I already took the Cardinals in this game, and now I'm a little
there's regrets about it. I see regrets in your eyes, John.
Yeah, because the Cardinals don't win without Murray playing at his best. So I did take the Cardinals. We'll see. I'm going to monitor the situation.
I may have to. See how it goes. I may just go against you.
Yeah. I might go against me as well. I might change that pick.
Yeah.
I have to bet against myself here.
I might have to balance you out here because I don't like that play at all. One thing I want to say about Russell Wilson, he doesn't take a shit. Did you see this thing?
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, he believes that if you eat optimally, that your body will not create any waste. And he refuses to go to the bathroom more than 2 times a week. And then he claims that the extra padding from the bloat is like padding for when you play football, and this is real. I saw this shit.
Well, I'll tell you, I have I have been eating a lot better, and yes, I don't nearly go as frequently. So he's right about that.
I've been eating these Entenmann's. Wait.
Individually,
I wish I had one here to show you. Individually wrapped pound cakes.
Man, I could do
freaking good.
Yeah, I could do a half gallon of milk and an entire pound cake, and I'll be good.
But the reason I mention it is because I've been going to the bathroom way more frequently.
Yeah, of course.
I got a giant package of these little pound cakes, and they're individually wrapped. I love individually wrapped things. Right. Anyway, let's wrap it up there.
Let's do it.
Don't forget that if you want the picks that John is putting out, of course you can watch the show and you'll get what we do on Thursday. But John's betting tennis and basketball, everything. It's all available in the Sharp App Discord. You could check that out. We link to it, or you go to sharpapp.com or anywhere you want. Get in that Discord. Of course, download the app if you can, and just check your player props, compare odds. It's a super convenient tool. And if you want to go pro and follow my bets, just follow me. I'm your boy. I don't like losing. I only put in bets that I think are going to win. I think that's a good
way to, it's a good approach.
Yeah. I only put in bets that I think are going to win. They don't always win, but when I put it in, I always think it's going to win.
You think it will.
Yeah. I always think it's going to win.
I like that.
Yeah. Listen, if more people did that, these sports books wouldn't be making that much money.
That's right.
All right. That's going to do it. Gameplan NFL Week 10. For John, Statsational, Alessia, for myself, we will see you guys next time. Good luck this week. We'll see you on top of the leaderboards. Deuces.